How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about the Meizu 17 and the 17 Pro and what the differences between the phones are. So I actually wanted to cover this using Meizu's official website, but they don't have the phones listed. So I've had to rely on Meizu's Weibo posts, which is somewhat like Twitter but for the Chinese market. So as we can see, the displays are pretty similar. It's a 6.6-inch Full HD Plus panel on the front of the display with a white bezel, which seems a bit confusing, but there is a variant with the black bezel too. A 92.2% screen to body ratio is great too, and if we scroll upwards we get to see that it's a 90Hz refresh rate panel and has a maximum brightness of 1100 nits, so pretty standard flagship level specifications. And I think with the DCI-P 300% color gamut coverage, it's going to deliver some good visuals and some good performance too. But I think that wraps up the display. If we look at the actual internals, again pretty similar. The Snapdragon 865 processor on board alongside UFS 3.1 storage, and it's got this software feature which can reduce power consumption when using 5G up to 64%, and it's also got Wi-Fi 6 capabilities. So when you're looking at connectivity, you're pretty much set to go. It's also got NFC technology as well as Meizu Pay, which is welcome not only in the Chinese region, for which this sort of is, but also for the international market. Now, something that's different and unique to the Meizu 17 series that I haven't seen in other smartphones is this 360-degree smart surround antenna, which basically means if you're using the phone either in portrait or in landscape, it's not going to suffer from signal depreciation, and I haven't seen many companies actually market this. So to see Meizu do it means there might be some sort of difference between these and other manufacturers, so that's something to look out for when we actually get the devices. Now, when it comes to internals, that's one of the biggest differences between the 17 and the 17 Pro, but not by a long margin. So the 17 has up to 8GB of RAM and UFS 3.1 storage up to 256GB. The 17 Pro just has up to 12GB of RAM and it's LPDDR5 RAM, so it's delivering up to 20% increase in terms of RAM performance, but I don't think that makes a major difference, and UFS 3.1 storage as well, as we'll get to in just a bit. Now in terms of software, the Meizu 17 and the 17 Pro both run Flyme OS 8.1, and I think that's where the majority of the questions come into play. Meizu isn't the best known when it comes to updating their software, and while this is Android 10 equipped, we don't know how well it'll be supported in the future. Now, something that is interesting is that M Engine 3.0, which comes to the 17 and the 17 Pro, which means you're gonna get better haptic engine feedback, and I think that's welcome for any smartphone. I think a good haptic engine means a overall good user experience, not only when you're using the phone on a general basis, but also when you're gaming especially. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the other big difference between the 17 and the 17 Pro comes in battery technology. Both of them have a 4500 mAh cell, which is standard, although the 30-watt supercharge is also standard. So it's got 56% charging in 30 minutes, again standard on both phones, but the 17 Pro has wireless charging, which means you can wirelessly charge the 17 Pro from 0 to 47% in just 30 minutes, and that's the difference between the 17 and the 17 Pro. And while those are pretty significant differences, one of the biggest differences comes in the camera. So if you look at the 17's camera, it's got a 64 megapixel IMX 686 Sony imaging sensor, pretty standard for flagships these days. It's got a 12 megapixel depth of field lens, a 5 megapixel macro lens, and an 8 megapixel 118-degree ultra wide lens. So overall, in terms of a camera package, it's pretty much a flagship level experience. I'm not sure how it will do when it comes to night mode technology, and here are some of the features that it goes on to sort of highlight. But the biggest difference comes in the 17 Pro. If we actually scroll upwards, it's got pretty much the identical specifications, the identical software, but as you can see, LPDDR5 RAM on board up to 12GB, as I mentioned, so a 20% boost in performance, but again, the wireless M charge up to 27 watts, a 4500 mAh battery nonetheless. But as I was saying, the camera is the biggest difference alongside the build of the phone, and the build is basically ceramic. That's the only difference between them, but the camera is the biggest difference I feel. So again, a 64 megapixel primary lens, but alongside it, it's also got a 32 megapixel ultra wide lens with a more 129-degree field of view. So that's one of the biggest differences, but it's also got a macro powerful 32 megapixel camera, which is great, alongside a Samsung level depth sensor. So I think overall the quad camera setup on the 17 Pro is really pushing it when it comes to flagship level specification. It can do things like augmented reality, it can do things like 3D. So all of that really helps, and I think the 3D is more to do with the depth sensor on the phone, and I think it's going to be a magnificent upgrade over the 17. And if you want to really focus and want to make your phone a good camera phone, I think the 17 Pro is where you have to sort of make your preference. But I think that about sums up everything you need to know about both of these smartphones. Now let's get to the actual unboxing experience. So that's the 17 Pro's box. As you can see, pretty minimalistic packaging. I'm just going to scroll through most of the packaging. This is the one with the black border, but there's also one with the white border. Now all of the credits to these photos are on the photos themselves, so if you want to check them out, you can do so. Again, I don't know what I think of the back design of the phone. It looks pretty bog standard. The in-screen fingerprint scanner obviously helps. I mean, if a fingerprint scanner was over here, it would look even uglier. But to me, this reminds me of WALL-E from that Disney movie. If you don't know, you can probably Google it. It does remind me of WALL-E's eyes. The front panel, okay, it does look very minimalistic, but the white bezel is just something I do not prefer. Now, one thing to keep in mind, this thing does not have the Google Play Store, so that's something you also should keep in mind if you want to import this phone. Again, another photo of the phone, and this in the box as well as the phone. Now, these are special edition or limited edition phones of the Meizu 17 Pro. This one is a more sort of collector's edition, whereas this one is for those people who are aircraft enthusiasts, and I really like this color of the phone because everything just seems so custom made. But I think that wraps up everything that we need to talk about apart from the price. So the price tag of the 17, the 8GB plus a 128GB variant is 3,699 yuan. So if we do a live conversion, which is what this channel is sort of becoming known for, that translates to around the 1,920 dirham mark. And if we were to change that to USD, that is around $522. Which I think is an absolute steal given the specifications of this phone. On May 11th is when the phone actually goes on sale, and if we look at the Pro variant of the phone, it's 4,299. So again, let's just do a quick little conversion right here. So $607, and if we were to change that to United Arab Emirates dirhams, it translates to 2,231 dirhams. Now, when it comes to these specifications and these sort of camera technologies, the charging technologies, the 5G support, 865 processing, it does rival the likes of the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro by a good margin. I mean, the Pro variant of this phone sells for around the $522 mark, I think it was. Let me just convert that and give you guys the updated spec. No, it's $607, which is still cheaper than the OnePlus 8, which sells for $699. So when you're looking at it from a sort of performance perspective, this phone is up there, but when it comes to software and availability, that's where these phones struggle, and that's where, you know, the Chinese population just gets the best of every single world. Now, these phones will be available on May the 11th. That's when the first sales of the phones are coming out, and this is just the limited edition phone, which sells for a hefty amount. So the limited edition phone that we talked about sells for 9,999, which is 1,413. So I'm guessing this is some sort of premium material, and that's why it's so much more expensive. Porcelain, yep, so it's a premium material. But the aircraft edition of the phone will be available on June 1st, and it'll sell for 4,299 yuan. So again, 4,299 is the exact same price. So I think the aircraft, or the aircraft carrier limited edition, that's what Meizu likes to call it, is fairly good. It delivers some great performance and also has a great look to the phone. Now, can I recommend this phone to an international audience? I'm not sure, because it doesn't have the Google Play services. I know you can get them through loopholes, but officially they don't have Google Play services, so that's something you have to keep in mind. Not only that, you also have to keep in mind the shipping costs. So I don't know what the shipping from China to US markets or anywhere else you live in the world is. And then comes the design. So the design of the phone isn't the best sort of looking design. I mean, yes, it might be made of a premium ceramic material, the Pro variant at least. It still doesn't look like a flagship phone, and that's something something that Meizu might want to fix for future iterations. I know they have to fix that for next year, but yes, maybe that's how they can keep the price tag of the phone so low, by, you know, depleting the design. We don't know anything about the fact that this might have or might not have Corning Gorilla Glass 5 protection, etc, etc. And I think these are the regions where these manufacturers actually skimp out to give you guys the price tag that we've seen here of a $607 flagship smartphone. But I guess that sums up the video. Let me know what you guys think about the Meizu 17 and 17 Pro down in the comments. Would you buy this phone? I would definitely buy this phone if given a chance, but I don't know how I would like Flyme OS 8.1 in general, and I don't know if I could get used to living without Google Play services unless there's a way to get them on this phone like we saw on the Huawei P40 series of smartphones. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Make sure to subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.